rolling.
Think we're good?
Is my hair okay? Yeah. And if I just word vomit, seriously. Joe's mullet in on top of like Canmore. Do you see he's like this?
Yes. You good?
I'm good.
How would you start this movie?
How would I start it? Like the beginning of the movie? I don't know.
That's a really good question. A call to action. A serious, in-your-face call to action. Just boom, here it is. People are like, huh?
When you're done working and you look back on your life, what do you want to be able to tell people about the impact you had on this planet, in this world, on people's lives?
You don't have to accept the lies that in order to be successful, you have to be corrupt and not care about people and planet. It's not true.
The twin stalkers of death on the planet are poverty and climate change.
There's a common misconception about millennials is that they're lazy, that they're disconnected. When folks are like, millennials are disinterested, I'm like, no, they're just tired of your bullshit.
You know how to make films, but how are you going to change anything?
God, it's so discolored, hey?
Hello.
Whoa. It is
So much room. Still stinks. Like old RV.
Yeah. I just want to see if I left anything behind here. I know.
Where's my towel?
It smells the same for sure. It's such a piece of shit, but it's such like a homie. I remember going to Megan and being like, should we just fly? Yeah.
When we first sat down here together and
Yeah.
looked out this window, that wasn't Halifax, that was Vancouver.
Yeah.
And now we get to look at our amazing home city.
A lot of people might say, like, who are you guys to tell this story? But, like, first-time filmmakers, as people who are passionate about this sector, as people who want to promote the next opportunity for young people, like, who are we not to tell this story? It was honestly awesome. Like, right here, it was the best. Yeah. Such a throwback.
Wanna go for a trip?
2.0. Meg and I graduated with business degrees, and in traditional business, for the most part, we were taught about making profits, scaling up, and cutting costs. But there's a shift happening, and it's very real. You can feel it politically, socially, and environmentally. One of my first year business classes, my prof put up a quote by Milton Friedman, and it basically said, the only obligation a business has is to make money. And I didn't even know what to make of it, because in traditional business, we're taught to be cutthroat, make money first. And, sometimes you have to harm the environment to do that, and sometimes you have to put your employees second to do that. I mean, I think our generation is redefining what value means. The generations before us is like this cookie cutter thing of, grow up, go to college, get a good job, raise a family, save enough money that you can retire. What if we don't want to have kids? What if we want to adopt? What if we don't want to get married? What if we don't want to work 9 to 5 for faceless shareholders? What if we want to be an entrepreneur? What if we want to engage both social good and business at the same time?
I'm a critical thinker. I really, truly do believe that there are solutions to really big issues. We're seeing these things that we're just not okay with, and we truly believe that it's in our power to change that.
We were approached by Common Good Solutions to become their videographers. And I was curious, what do they do? Social enterprise. I thought, Facebook? We talking Instagram? Like, what are we talking here? Literally, I thought it was social media. I had no idea what the term social enterprise meant. And I had a business degree. Like, how do I not know about this? Dave Upton is the co-founder of Common Good Solutions, and he decided that there was a bigger story to tell about social entrepreneurship and social enterprise. And he was like, let's do it across Canada. And we were like, fuck yeah, obviously.
We talked to a lot of people about it as we were thinking about it and putting it all together.
Over 250 people on our list to interview. And there were people in Nova Scotia that said, why don't you just like it's cute, but like, why don't you just like tone it down, maybe do it in Nova Scotia?
Are you crazy? No way, you can't do that. I'm like, yes, we can. I don't really fall into anybody's boxes. Whatever boxes people make, don't care, not my issue. I am sort of myself, and if you like it, great, and if you don't, great. My life is about having fun. Priority number one is to have a good time. I freaking love those girls so much. For a little while, it took some time to figure out who was who. They're a team. They are what embodies a team.
We have done pretty much everything growing up together, between school, jobs, not relationships, fortunately. A lot of people say that like we do a lot of things the same and that, you know, we should branch out and whatever, but it genuinely works for us.
We really balance each other out, I think. And I think if one of us was missing, it just works. Like, it's the bomb.
She's a shit show, but yeah.
We're not experts by any means. And this whole journey is to bring people on board to come learn with us about doing business in a different way. We flew all the way to the West Coast in downtown Vancouver, where we started our cross-Canada trip. Unbelievable. You know, like a girl coming from, you know, small town Nova Scotia. Like, it felt so big, and you felt so small, but at the same time, you felt so big somewhere inside you. Our buddy Kevin from university met us in Vancouver to join us on our journey across the country. We needed some help filming the trip, so it worked out well because Kev is also a videographer. Not to mention, you could say we get along just fine.
Our first stop was the Enactus National Championship. At Enactus, post-secondary students showcase how their community outreach projects and business ventures are enabling progress through entrepreneurial action. Or in our words, it's the next generation participating in the social shift.
Really what we're trying to do is help the next generation of leader understand how business can be a force for social good. You're not doing a case study, you're not talking about a plan, you're actually having to go out, get your hands dirty, and make something happen.
I want to find something in where I am productive and I'm successful, but at the same time, I'm serving a greater purpose.
It's also opened my eyes to the capability of students in Canada and the potential that we have and the difference that we can make around the world.
The winning prize is that who changed more people's lives, who impacted the most people. And I found that beautiful.
How you measure your results is not about dollars. It can be about people and it can be about social change.
The keynote speaker for the Enactus competition was Donna Morton, who is the CEO of Change Finance.
We built Change Finance with the idea of literally using the power of the market economy and specifically Wall Street to rejig everything, right? To make companies that treat people and planet with some kind of dignity and reasonability, to give them a market advantage and move money away from companies that are trashing the place and treating people like garbage.
Mic drop. Maybe we'll get you a mic so you can drop it. That's literally what we keep saying.
We did not plan to interview her, but as soon as she spoke, I said, Megan, we need to tackle this woman to the ground when she's walking out. And we got her, thank God, and she was like, I've heard about you guys. Multiple people told me to wait around for you guys. We're like, thank you.
You really don't have to accept the garbage. You don't have to accept the lies that in order to be successful, you have to be corrupt and not care about people and planet. It's not true. It never was true, but it's really not true right now. never sell your integrity for a paycheck. You can build business models that succeed with the ethics and the integrity baked into the business model, not bolted onto the side. Look to people who have been left out. If you are brown, if you are a woman, if you are gay, if you are poor, you probably know more about resiliency and disruptive, creative thinking than anybody else. And so where is our ability to pull in the people who have been left out and gather their intelligence, because it actually might save our butts.
I think you're the smartest person I've ever met.
This is the most hilarious conversation I've had about this stuff in a long time. You guys are awesome.
The RV that we had decided to buy was through one of my friends in British Columbia, and he found a really great RV at a really great price. Got the RV ready for the road, got it painted. One morning, I made my way from Kelowna to Vancouver, driving an RV that I didn't really know how to drive very well by myself through the Coquihalla. I ran out of gas, I couldn't even call CA. I pulled over on the side of the highway. So that was a big fiasco. I didn't end up making it there until around supper time.
What does this do?
That's the AC.
Oh, damn.
It hauls ass. The person who...
I have never been in one of these before. No, me neither.
It's ours.
So it's like when you get a puppy, you're like super excited.
For 20 minutes, we sat on the side of the road downtown Vancouver with people honking their horns at us, just really excited for what was about to come.
Seatbelts!
Seatbelts!
Seatbelts, squad! Whoa! That's a sick shot. Ooh, ooh, ooh. First night. Squad!
I literally shut down all the power. We're running on fucking batteries. I don't get it. I don't know. Help!
Come on, Joe. You're supposed to know the one. You're supposed to be the one that knows what you're doing with this stuff.
I pretend.
Think about like everything that's happening right now with like Trump and like all that stuff, but you think about like all the movements that are going on, you know, with like climate change and like women's rights and like all those things. I think like the world, not only Canada, but I think the entire world is demanding something more. You can feel this happening. Like you can feel it. People genuinely want to be better. We had so many conversations on the road about the shift that's happening and how a lot of businesses are starting to get on board. Just recently, this article appeared in the New York Times. BlackRock manages $6 trillion worth of investments, and their CEO stated that they will only invest in companies that have social impact.
Big change doesn't often happen. But that being said, I also agree that big business can have a lot of impact. It is small change, it's incremental change, and it's like everyday individual change that collectively makes a difference.
I just filmed all that, yeah.
I'm back. Is it in 6 days? 1, 2, 3. Cheese. Ready to rock.
You have batteries?
We couldn't come to Vancouver and not stop in to see David LePage. He's been a champion of social purchasing for decades.
Well, a lot of people ask me, like, what's social enterprise? They want a definition. They want to know, is that one, and they think it's a thing. And social enterprise is not a particular business or a particular type. It's really about a way of using business to create community value. I think we have to go back a couple thousand years and realize that social enterprise was how Aboriginal communities exchange goods and services, whether it was fish on the coast or, maize in the prairies, and they traded for community value. Somehow along the way, we started to trade only for economic value. Social enterprise is trying to get us back to the roots of creating a social value marketplace, not for my gain or your personal gain, but for community value. So social enterprise is not a noun, social enterprise is a verb. A lot of businesses have a social purpose. They do good stuff, okay? But when we get to defining a social enterprise, 50% of its profits go back to that purpose, right? So when you have those elements, then you have a social enterprise.
So Andrea Reimer right now is the city councilor for Vancouver. Jojo?
Right.
She has a bit of a interesting background growing up on the streets. She was homeless during her early ages, 14 to 19. As city councilor, she's a member of the Greenest City team, the 10-year action plan to become the world's greenest city.
We have an initiative to be the greenest city in the world by the year 2020. They only rank like the 500 top cities in the world, so we know we weren't in those 500 when we started this in 2009. Now we're ranked number 4 in the world by the Global Green Index. And then on top of that, that's amazing. These are not Canadian problems, these are global problems. The twin stalkers of death on the planet are poverty and climate change. So what's the antidote to that? It's to build from the ground up at the local level. And that's where social enterprise gives us the opportunity to put economic tools back in our hands. We're not giving up decisions about whether or not we're going to burn fossil fuels to some company that's held by shareholders in God knows where, who aren't that concerned about the people who live in my city or in the poorest parts of the country, which include parts of my cities.
The part of the city that she is referring to is the downtown east side of Vancouver, home to the poorest postal code in Canada. It's one of North America's largest open-air drug markets and densest population of mental illness and homelessness.
Hard parking, downtown Vancouver. Downtown east side. Joe, we'll get you coffee. Do you like cream? Yeah, he likes cream. Cream, 18%. I know you.
We wanted to see what was happening on the ground, so we stopped in at a very successful social enterprise in the heart of the downtown east side called Embers Staffing Solutions.
You guys look like twins.
Yeah, we are twins.
So classy. I'm not crazy. So Megan and Marie and Megan.
Yeah,
Okay.
Joseph. And Joseph and Kevin. And Kevin is
The guy behind.
Yeah.
I just heard yesterday 7,800 people are on social assistance in this community alone. So there's a lot of problems, with drug addiction and, mental health and poverty. But there's also a lot of people that are turning their lives around. And how can we work with the people here that are getting going? Like there's people coming out of prisons, for example, and there's people coming out of recovery centers. And how do they go to an employer and say, hire me, I haven't worked in 15 years? And how do they explain themselves? So this model that we created, Embers Staffing Solutions, is a temporary labor model that's really an intermediary. We connect people who are trying to get back into the workforce to companies that will hire them. It was an elegant solution to a very, very complex social economic problem. Let's invest in this person. And we got him training as a hoist operator. Then we paid for him to become a construction safety officer, and he moved up the ranks. And during that time, he got remarried, he connected with his his family.
It's a lot more than making money. It's feeling like a productive member of
That's the
society.
most important thing.
Yeah.
It gives them a future. In 2012, we were employing 10 people a day. At the end of 2016, we employed 1,400 people. It's a great example of how you can do social good and do business.
Transitional employment is one way to solve a lot of the social issues we face, and we saw it over and over again in the downtown east side. The goal is to advance their skills and work tolerance in order to prepare them for a permanent job placement. Mark Brand decided to grow a social enterprise called Save on Meats that does exactly just that.
Hiring one person to be a dishwasher wasn't going to change the world, but teaching people how they could hire people with developmental disabilities and traditional barriers to employment in a pragmatic way that makes money That was a way that I knew that I could make a larger impact. So we opened Save On Meats in 2010, 2011, which is an institution in Vancouver in the very heart, like at ground zero of the downtown east side. So we wanted to provide healthy food, accessible food, and created a project, which I think speaks to a little bit of the work we do, called the Token Project. So if you were uncomfortable with people asking you for money for food and nervous they might use it for drugs or alcohol, it's a shitty stigma, but it's a real one. I wanted everybody to be able to engage, so we created these. And for a couple of dollars, you could buy one. They have no denomination on them. And any time of the day or night, redeem them for a sandwich at my butcher shop or diner. People say we don't have a problem with food. There's soup kitchens, et cetera, everywhere. We have a huge fucking problem with food. And the food that people are getting and the access to them out of food banks, bless their souls, 90% of the time that food is garbage. It's full of nitrates, it's packaged, it's canned. If things don't have an expiry date, there's a problem. So what we're looking at is how do we get people fed, trained, and employed to get them back into upward mobility and find a position.
A lot of social activists assume they'll work in the nonprofit sector, but business is not something to be afraid of. Capitalism has a bad name, and it doesn't have to be that way.
It just feels like there's this real binary split and almost a fear of business, or that there's something inherently bad about it. There's nothing wrong with selling things to make money. It all depends on how you do it, what you're making, how you treat people along the way, and so on.
LunaPads is a super progressive B Corp business that specializes in making awesome menstrual products and bladder leakage products that are washable and reusable and really good for your health and the environment.
I have kind of a background in the fashion industry and been sewing my whole life. And so I started experimenting with making things that I washed and used, which was a very radical act. And I know some people listening to that even now will be like, oh my God. But when I actually did it, I really liked it. Like it just something felt very subversive and liberating and exciting. When I kind of made that discovery, that's what led me to want to commercialize the products. Part of the social shift for me is noticing really big conversations that are taking place around climate change, for example, huge. Like people are coming to understand that there's only so much of the earth that we can use before we destroy it, and we need to change our consumer habits. And that's you, and that's her, and that's me, that's all of us. Nobody is exempt from this equation because we are all connected. Every choice I make is important.
Mission before money, but no money, no mission, right? That's one of my favorite quotes. You can solve all the world's problems all you want, but if you're not sustainable, think again.
Super force.
We don't hold ourselves on some like pedestal. Like we're not perfect consumers. I think there's a difference. Like you have to be able to make a living, but there's also a sector out there that we're trying to promote that showcases that you can make a very livable wage and also do good at the same time.
Final and ta-da!
Wow.
So hot.
Being in the mountains with Megan and Joe and Kevin and looking at each other and being like, A, how do we even make this happen? B, how am I even alive to experience this? There was a bit of a hiccup in the fall. I broke my neck. I fell down a hill, and at the bottom of the hill, there was like a brick ledge. And I fell off the hill and hit my head. I broke my C1, C2, C6, and C7. The doctor basically, put simply, was like, you're lucky to be walking, let alone breathing. And I was in a halo for 3 months, and then I was in a neck brace for 4 weeks after that. So it kind of postponed a lot of the pre-production phase, which is probably why we were so stressed out before the documentary. The best moment of the whole trip was in Canmore.
You know, we drove up thousands of feet. We were looking around and we were surrounded by mountains. We were literally on the top peak.
How you feel?
So good. Top of the world, you.
I mean, it felt like we were on top of the world. That's literally how it felt. I remember looking at Marie, and Marie was like bawling. When I broke my neck, the doctor said to me, without knowing anything about my experience and my background, he said, Marie, there's somebody watching out for you. I was like, no shit. Mom was a nurse. She knew that there was something wrong. They identified that there was a mass in her abdomen. And then a week later, it was cancerous. And then a week later, we found out that there was 8 tumors and they were growing for like 2 years prior. I get so emotional when I talk about Mom. You think after 10 years I'd be okay? Everybody knew Mom in the community. Like, you knew when Paula was around. So I think her personality, you see, a lot of people tell us that they see her in us. From such a young age, you know, like we grew up very angry and like embraced it at times, but definitely very angry at sometimes. It was very, very difficult. Meg and I always say we cheated the system because we had each other, right, to support and lean on. It taught Marie and I at a very young age to be more empathetic. The world needs a lot more empathy. And like I said, it's unfortunate that sometimes it takes these horrific things to happen to be more empathetic and see people's perspectives and understand that there's more to life than making money. You know, it's about impacting people, impacting planet.
Sitting here by the campfire with my friends. I can see your halo, halo, halo. See your halo. My friend Maureen had a halo. Halo, halo. My girl had a halo.
Hello, Calgary! Joseph, hello!
I saw it.
It's time to say goodbye to the Rockies and hello to Calgary. We went to check out Common Good Linens, who is a local linen service that provides transitional employment to people facing barriers such as homelessness and mental illness.
Okay, are we rolling? Yeah, we're good.
100% of our employees from a labor perspective are barriered employees, impact employees, we call them. But we're very clear with them in the beginning. We say, listen, this is not volunteer work, this isn't charity work, this is a job. So if you work your ass off and do well and stay stable and just stay in it, have a good attitude, you'll have a job here for a long time.
And if they fail, we're still here. It's not, oh, you are fired now, because that happens a lot. You know, I had this older gentleman say to me, he's like, oh, I've heard about Common Good. It's such a cute idea. You must sleep well at night. And like my blood just boiled, right? And I was boiling because it was like, we have 3,555 people living on our streets in Calgary alone. I don't think any of us should be sleeping well at night. And this isn't charity and it isn't something cute that we're doing. They are hardworking men and women that are living on the streets for lots of different reasons that are mind-blowing, like losing your whole family in one car accident. You know, we're looking at it from a way different perspective. You have skills and we have an opportunity and we're a for-profit organization. We want you to work. We value you. The opposite to addiction is not sobriety. The opposite to addiction is connection. It's community.
People need your $2, but what they also really need is they need your compassion. They need to say hello. They'd like to shake a hand and ask what their name is. They want to feel human. When I interact with people on the street, whether they be homeless, panhandlers, whatever they are, I didn't know as a young person how to do that. I'm half Dutch, and on the other side, I am Indigenous Inuit from Johaven, Nunavut. My biological father was born on the tundra, spent the first 8 years of his life living on the land, basically as a nomad with his parents. But basically, he was born into the Stone Age. I had a white mom. It was just a separation of cultures between my mom and he. When my mom went down south to Nova Scotia to do her master's degree, she brought my brother and I, and we've been here ever since. For he and I, our experience in sort of a white rural community was interesting. My bus driver in grade 2 called us them cute little Italian boys. And then we didn't know what to think. We didn't understand. I have to speak to the color of my skin, and my middle name is Qiqut. I have to spell it out all the time, Qiqut. Most of my life has been in Nova Scotia, and I would identify as being an Inuit Nova Scotian. I know how to build a load of hay on a trailer better than I'd know how to build an igloo, and people seem to not understand that sometimes, which was really weird, especially as a young boy growing up, to try and speak to these matters. But it's now my responsibility as an educated, integrated Indigenous person to Canada to push forward for the next generations behind me to come so that they may not have to go through the same kind of questions and conversations that I did growing up that I didn't even know how to have.
The next morning, we get up to continue the trek across the prairies. What we didn't realize was that there had been a lot of flooding that week. Joe?
So, here we are. We're supposed to be, I don't know, canola field or something. And 2 3-foot swells. We're in the middle of the prairies. It's like I should have brought my surf. Whoa! You see silos getting crashed by the water. This is very bizarre.
Not to mention, there was 90-kilometer-an-hour gusts of wind. Still don't know how we got through that one. We were trying to raise more money, and also like we need to name the RV, and we were looking for different people's responses to figure out, and different people liked it and kind of voted on it or whatever. One of my old high school friends, her dad wrote The Fridge. You know when it just works? You're just like, that is it for sure.
The Fridge. Excellent name. It really does look like something you'd find in your grandmother's basement. Sort of old, dated, yellowish, sort of half-white box.
We're just in the middle of the road. There's no one around. It's like 9 o'clock at night, sunshine. Let's go, buddy! Healthy and happy.
Come on, guys, I have to pee.
We're going across the country. I've got some experience with
Our first stop in Winnipeg was the Canadian Community Economic Development Network, a national organization committed to creating economic opportunities that enhance social and environmental conditions.
So, hello. Thank you for your time.
So CED is Community Economic Development. I think our definition is about creating social and economic opportunities for people, especially those that are most disadvantaged or most marginalized. Communities are the experts of their lived experience. So when we design programs or solutions or anything that don't include them, you're missing the expert. So why not center economic development and community solutions and social work and all those kinds of things around the experts of the problem?
We do fist bumps.
Our second interview in Winnipeg was with a credit union, which is different than a traditional banking institution because it's designed to serve the community.
So a lot of people know that they put money into a financial institution. They don't necessarily think about what happens to that money. Do you know what your money is doing while you sleep? Every dollar that's put into this credit union by way of a deposit gets reinvested right back here in our communities. When you're done working and you look back on your life, what do you want to be able to tell people about the impact you had on this planet, in this world, on people's lives?
What we're seeing through the people that we're talking to, what we're seeing as young people, we talk a lot about work-life integration, that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
But how like work isn't just work anymore, it's more about your life and what you want to leave behind.
My only real idea of the North were the same misconceptions that most Canadians have, and it's the things that you hear about on the news. There is an issue with youth mental health, and there was a high cost of living.
Ajmal Sattar from Inspire Nunavut runs social entrepreneurship accelerators in remote communities up north.
When I traveled up north, I met these very inspiring young people who had very strong culture and ties to their traditions, and they understood the gaps that existed in their communities, but their only real capacity and solution was to have the government be the ones to solve it for them. At this point now, our hope is to essentially create more social entrepreneurs and continue to create this movement of entrepreneurs up north.
I think what makes Canada awesome is nature, recent immigrants, Indigenous wisdom. And I often point out, how can we miss the intelligence of communities, nations that have 10,000 years track record? If you know how to live in one place and treat people well and build a beautiful culture for 10,000 years, you have stuff to teach.
We had so much support from people in our local community, but then all of a sudden across. And the different people that we were interviewing, like their networks started to hear about it, and everybody, we were like on the top of this wave.
It felt like people were a part of the journey with us.
It's one thing to park downtown, it's another thing to park 24-foot.
Chevy. Fridge is great. It sucks for parking.
Ready?
Just saying, it's my favorite part.
I didn't even know it could make a sound, honestly. Go for it.
When CSI was first created, our founders believed strongly in the idea of a space where there was a diverse group of people working on a diverse group of projects, with the belief being that innovation tends to emerge when you have that person that works in education and that person who works in finance coming together, and the combination and the collision of their they're different in their lived experiences is typically where new tends to emerge. And so it's a beautiful melange of social good.
The social procurement fair tweeted at us and said, yo, we want you guys to come feature all the social enterprises here. Can you tell us a little bit about what is going on here?
Sure. So Toronto's got a very lively social enterprise space. And the next step of a social enterprise is actually providing goods and services to the different governments that are out there. So tonight we've got 20 to 25 social enterprises alive and active here in the community, and they're being matched, kind of like speed dating, with procurement officers who will be making those purchasing decisions. So the idea is those people with a social mission get married up with those people who have to buy these things day in, day out, all year round.
These are public dollars that we're spending. And so when we buy goods and services, it should also benefit the community as well.
Patch is a full-service public arts agency where we connect the developing community with local artists. We employ people coming home from prison within the coffee business in any capacity, delivery, sales, marketing.
It wasn't about delivering packages. It was just about, that was just a vessel for employment.
It's also busting that myth that social enterprises aren't professional and can't deliver really high-class products and services.
The days of win-win are gone. It's about like win-win-win-win-win-win-win.
The purchasing power of government is amazing,
Billions,
and I don't think people really understand that.
You know, there's printing, there's food services, there's a lot of activities that are being purchased today by our tax dollars.
Maximizing the public benefit from our purchasing.
I've done way too many fist bumps today. It's great. That's so cool.
Dude, I want to come in your freaking van.
I know, yeah, I know. Gotta come to Kingsley. Hey, yeah, that was After the social procurement fair, we get to talk with 21 Toys, a company that designs toys that teach empathy to schools and offices.
When I started saying I'm going to change education with toys, I got a lot of like, cool. And then, like, people were supportive of it, but the idea that it would be a business was like,
it's cute.
Yeah, that's adorable.
Yeah.
It's nice that what we're doing is trying to make the world a better place, but empathy is business. There are studies out there, the Harvard Business Review says companies that invest in empathy have a 50% higher earnings. We design and manufacture toys that teach empathy and failure. And we support educators and companies in using those skills in the way that they work.
Hi, Marie.
Hi, Jojo.
Can you do me a favor and get the large arrow?
This high school started using the empathy toy with their guidance counselor. And then they came back to us and said, well, what if we actually got the students to run the workshops on empathy? That school is a representation of a lot of the challenges that Winnipeg faces. A few years ago, Winnipeg was written up in Maclean's as the most racist city in Canada. And over the course of 3 years, they had a reduction in conflict-based office referrals, so less kids were being sent to the office by 85%. So they had less bullying, they had less racism. If we're asking kids, but also adults, to have these key 21st century skills, which is where the name 21 Toys comes from, if we're asking them to be innovative, creative, collaborative, then we can't be teaching that with textbooks. So we believe that toys are the new textbooks.
21 Toys is a venture that's part of SheEO, a global community of women radically transforming how we finance, support, and celebrate female innovators. We had the opportunity to sit down with their founder to discuss how they're contributing to the shift.
You know, I view myself as the original millennial, actually. When I was growing up, I wanted to do good and make money. And 30 years ago, that was ridiculous. People would look at me and go, Vicky, just go make money and then give it away. I started SheEO because only 4% of venture capital goes to women. It's been like that for decades. It hasn't changed at all. I don't think it's going to change unless women start investing in women. Around the world, women are starting businesses at almost twice the pace of men. So the time is now to be investing in women. And just imagine what kind of world we'd have if women were at the table with men, co-designing it.
There's something called the glass ceiling, which is the invisible barrier that women and minority groups face when trying to advance their careers. Being a woman, but also identifying as a lesbian, I see it a lot. When we were in Toronto, we visited another organization that's helping to create a more inclusive Canada, and it's called Get Real.
I went to Western University, and I was part of the Orientation Week program there. There's a very positive environment around empowering and energizing SOFs, they're called, or O-Week leaders, to work with our first years on inclusive language and inclusive attitudes. So we would see students adjust their language in a couple of days, you know, that's so gay, fag, that kind of stuff, retarded, anything negative. We would see a lot of students disclose things to us, come out to us, say they felt comfortable, like they belonged. So my friend Arthur came up with the name. It's called Get Real, and REAL stands for Reaching Equality at Last. We're a youth-driven nonprofit organization. Our mission is to energize LGBTQ+ youth and their allies to voice their stories. There's something I always believed in, you know, like every time I read a piece of feedback from a student that says, you know, I'm not gonna use language like, you know, fag, gay anymore, I now know that I'm not alone.
As someone who identifies as gay, I struggled a lot with my sexuality growing up. And I wish that something like Get Real spoke to my school at a young age. Between hardships I've encountered, like mom dying or coming out or, you know, breaking my neck and almost dying, it's those things that have made me a more empathetic, more curious, more resilient person. And I know, like, I'm a middle-class, white female. Like, I get it good, but you can resonate with people who have been through hardships.
Ready for the dirty stuff? So much fun again. We have fun, but we also have to deal with poop.
Tucked away back there. So we start with the toilet one. All you have to do, pull that. There's all the
Easy enough.
all the nastiness there.
So gross.
It's just gonna smell really bad.
Is everybody having fun?
I am.
With the rise of social entrepreneurship, we're seeing more and more companies having social and environmental impact. They are shifting to companies like Bullfrog Power, who provide green energy for homes as well as businesses.
Bullfrog Power is focused on accelerating the growth of renewable energy in Canada. Not only are we lowering your own carbon footprint and displacing your own usage, but we're also giving that money to communities across Canada. We are a tool that businesses can use to be more green in a very proven and sort of respectable way.
Hey, Prime Minister Trudeau.
Who, me?
We're trying to do something big, and we need your help. If you're watching this and you think our Prime Minister should be featured in this documentary, give this video a share, like, love, retweet, whatever the heck you need to do to make this happen.
Together, we can help change the face of business in this country.
Mic drop. So that video went viral, and soon after we heard from Justin Trudeau's assistant. But unfortunately, when we rolled up to Parliament Hill, he wasn't in town, and they pretty much laughed in our face for thinking we could bring an old school 24-foot RV past security. Hopefully we'll get him, I don't know. It would have been really cool to have him in it.
Insurtech is a social economy enterprise that refurbishes computers that come from big corporations, and we employ youth and try to give them a job, try to get them back on the working market. We're also trying to raise awareness around electronic waste, try to prolong and maximize the stuff. You might as well. You're investing your money in it, and it's good for the environment. It just makes so much more sense.
Nowadays, there's a lot of pressure for companies to be more environmentally friendly and green. But sometimes it's hard to tell if they're being genuine. As consumers, we need to ask ourselves, is this truthful or is it just good marketing?
Now we've seen this rise of social entrepreneurship, and that means more or less who knows what. in Canada, and it can be totally someone with good intentions or someone with bad intentions who's branding it nicely.
There's what we call a trust gap, where consumers and people aren't in the place where they feel that they can trust what they hear, what they see, especially in media and also in what businesses are saying. And that's because a lot of companies may use marketing or communications as a way to talk about things just to sell more product. Who's to know who's actually doing it and who's to know who's just using it for marketing?
I'm concerned about the social washing that I'm seeing. Like everyone now, there's a social impact to what they're doing, and that's good enough. And I don't think that just changes on the margin are good enough. I think we need to fundamentally rework who's controlling our economy, who's reaping the benefits of our economic activity.
There was a bank that donated $200,000 or something to a cancer run for awareness, and then they ended up spending quadruple the amount on advertising the fact that they did that. And that's social washing, right? Like that's just taking advantage of it.
There are now actually processes like the B Corp status. Like we're going through being B Corp certified right now at Change Finance because we actually want to have that seal of approval that says, you know, we've gone through a certification standard and we've been designated to be a good company.
There's over 100 different industries that are involved in the B Corp movement. It's not limited to what you do, but it's more about what you're about, what your values are.
By no means are we experts, but companies definitely take advantage of the fact that consumers are now shifting their mindsets and want to buy from these companies that have bigger impact. We were on a high, right? Like we were so excited to start the journey and to drive across, and we were out west in the mountains and hiking and scenic views and, you know, having campfires every night. And then once we hit Toronto, the shiny aspect of it started to wear off a bit, I think.
We were all tired, we were all exhausted. Hey, I've got an RV and I pulled over for a second to find where we were, and now it's not starting. So I think we need a boost.
Assault!
Just isn't starting. I don't know.
Well, I don't know anything about cars, so. I mean, this is definitely the hottest that we've driven in. Yeah, it's pretty warm.
Called CAA and there we were on the phone, and I tried one last time just before we hung up, and boom, it turned over. I was like,
Never mind.
I think it just needed a break. It was just warm. And just like, just give me a break, please.
Burned a couple bulbs out on the road, so we're just fixing that up. Want to be able to see down the road.
8,500 kilometers later, somehow we managed to make our way back to Nova Scotia. We continued to do our interviews across the province, which were focused a lot on supporting local. One of the ways to reduce your carbon footprint is much easier than you think. It's to buy local, buy sustainable, and buy organic.
For a lot of people, food's like a gateway into community economic development because it's so tangible that, yeah, if your apple comes all the way from Chile and you don't know anything about the people who made it, something clicked for you that it is like weird that your food comes from nowhere near you and that nobody you know had a hand in making it and nobody you know profited from that or benefited from that.
So the hospital got this piece of land as a land swap. So usually an interim land use is a parking lot. But this lovely hospital said, that won't make people healthier, but maybe an urban farm will. Common Roots Urban Farm is a really big garden in the heart of Halifax, adjacent to the hospital, that has a community garden and a market garden where we employ new Canadians to grow food for fancy restaurants, the food bank, and our market stand.
People don't know what type of fish to buy. People don't know how to cook it. People don't know what the right decision-making process is. So we forged relationships with local fishermen and aquaculturalists to communicate the stories and environmental practices that they uphold every day, and bring those stories to the consumers who get to enjoy really sustainable, nutritious seafood. I think if we're more active consumers in the areas that we live, we could make better decisions about the future resource development or the future of what our communities are going to look like. And by actively participating in those decisions, I think we can help keep resources here, keep them developed in a sustainable manner, and help keep communities vibrant. It's complicated. The science isn't always right. There's political factors that come into it. So I think the more educated we are, then they start to see, okay, and start peeling back the layers and can ask the right questions.
Farms can be some of the most important carbon sequesterers and environmental stewards that we have. So I think shopping from the farmers markets, spending time cooking high-quality foods together is a really beautiful, fun, powerful, consistent way that we can be active members of our community in a good way, and yeah, be voting with our dollars. That was like how I got to be where I am, because I had a grumpy old stepdad from Europe, and he was like, you vote 3 times a day. He's like, your dinner plate every time.
Made with Local is a food company that pulls together the most beautiful, nourishing local ingredients directly from farmers and food producers, brings all of that food to social enterprise production bakeries, organizations that employ folks with barriers to mainstream employment, and produces 3 lines of really awesome, yummy foods.
So Dask has over 100 clients on the floor. The clients have intellectual and physical disabilities. So when you choose Dask, you bring benefits to your community, and you're employing people and making a difference in their lives.
We've grown into a business that is run by moms, and for us, like, that's absolutely something that we're mindful of, is making sure that the food that we're creating is something that we would 100% feed to our own kids. When you're choosing products that are made with this purpose behind it, that it's an act of love. It's an active choice in making change, in voting with your dollars, in putting, your money where your values lie, and I just think that's so important.
Another social enterprise that made with local oat sources for production is Stonehearth Bakery.
Stonehearth was nominated for Small Business of the Year by the Halifax Chamber of Commerce. It was quite a discussion because they had never actually considered a social enterprise before. Quite a few business leaders thought that, it's a sheltered workshop and, you're really not a serious contender.
They produce high-quality products, but they also employ folks with mental health difficulties.
We're a serious contender in the market if you're going to choose, your food products, and you can look at things like, the quality of what you're feeding people, but also the impact you're making in the community in those decisions.
Whether you have a disability or a different skin color, marginalization is a means to treat others as less than or insignificant.
We often talk about gentrification and we really are scared of that word, but I think really what it's about is not repeating the history of displacing people. And so how can we have a community that is developing but actually doesn't leave the residents that have been here behind?
When you are a marginalized group, you already have that entrepreneurial mindset because you're faced with so many problems. There's a perceived notion of how people see you, and you're really doing everything you can to not be that. So we're going to be using the Social Shift RV to use it as a platform for our youth to sell their products and services and manage their social enterprise out of. In my mind, the way I think about it is it really kind of connects back to where this all started. It's really important that we empower these kids to come out of the context that they've been living in and really make a difference in their community.
Being Black and being female, I'm fighting those things every day. There's just so many things that make us so complex in how we express ourselves and whether or not we fit in Canadian narrative. Who are we to be Canadian in all this mixture? You know, our generation can kind of confidently say, this is who we are, and present that to the world.
Not only are consumers wanting to see businesses having more impact, but our government is advocating for it too. So over the last year, we've been trying to get Prime Minister Justin Trudeau's attention to be interviewed in the Social Shift documentary. And when we heard that he'd be at the Halifax Pride Parade, we tried to get a moment with him, but missed our chance again. But that definitely didn't stop us. When we found out the Liberals were hosting their national convention in Halifax, we contacted his assistant one last time.
Welcome to Nova Scotia. Hello, Halifax.
We have harassed this lady. Literally sent her 100 emails. We must have.
So the documentary is called The Social Shift. My question to you as the Prime Minister of this country is, what is your definition of the social shift?
Well, I think it's understanding that you don't have to choose anymore whether you want to make a profit or have a positive impact in the world. I think a lot of people from previous generations sort of said, and did think about having an impact on the world, but if you wanted to, you had to either go into politics or more likely, succeed in business all your life and then be a philanthropist when you retire or try and do something afterwards. But what I think people get today is, no, if you can think about doing a job that has a positive impact in the world in a way that is in line with your most important values, while being reassured that you figured out how to do it in a way that will be sustainable in an economic sense because it's actually profitable. You're not drawing down on some finite pot of money. You're creating value through what you're doing that is, a total non-zero-sum game. This is a good thing.
Yeah, exactly.
Everybody has a part to play. Whether you're the leader of a country or a first-time filmmaker, whether you work for a socially driven business or you buy from them, we all need to get on board with this shift that's happening, the social shift.
Where you spend your money, time, and effort is how you want the world to be. It's very Gandhian. Know what your values are and seek out companies that are aligned with those values.
85% of millennials want their investments in alignment with their values, and lots of you refuse to work for companies that treat people and planet badly, right? That's what's cool about your generation.
I want you to become MLAs that change government policy. I want you to join us at rallies. I want you to start enterprises. I want you to volunteer. Pay attention to what's going on. And if you feel like this is not right, it's not just, it's not equal, pay attention and then do something. But start where you are.
If these are the result of human choices, we can choose differently. And if we can choose differently, we're going to get a different future.
changing the world is hard work. You face resistance in so many different ways. To find a community of people who are all dedicated to doing this work was just like this oasis, but it was real.
You have to have something that keeps you going that's beyond money to keep you going through those days.
When I came into this work, things that people said to me over and over was, you're too idealistic, you're not real. And I think the biggest thing that I didn't let get in my way is I didn't listen. And so I really hope that your generation doesn't listen to Gen X and baby boomers that try to shut you down.
So you're in the whole documentary.
I love what you said around the shift in perspective from work-life balance to work-life integration. You only need to balance things that are far apart from one another. If they're integrated, you don't need to balance them and you're not doing this whole thing. They're just your life.
Trying to blend those things together isn't just a nice moral thing to feel good about yourself, but it's actually one of the only ways to feel like you're successful in the world. The world's filled with miserable millionaires because they haven't focused on what they actually have to offer the world. Thanks, Megan. What a pleasure.
So good.
There was so much to be said about that feeling of, wow, we actually did this. I can't believe we actually did this.
The four of us made it what it was.
Every inch of that fridge, love it.
The fridge. A lot of love and a little bit of hate, and a lot of hate sometimes.
She'd be pumped. Mom doesn't exist in just like old diaries or photo albums or whatever. She exists in my everyday life. Like, if anything, she's more present than ever. If it wasn't for her dying, I don't think we would have been here. Making a documentary, like being entrepreneurs, the relationships, the friendships, the things that we've done. It's been the worst but best thing that's happened. Yeah. When bad things happen to you, you have to find the light kind of in it somehow.
How do you think we should end this whole movie?
Ukulele. I don't know specifically how to end it, but I think when I think of the ending, I think of a feeling. It needs to grab people by the heartstrings and just yank on them. And as you yank, you say, here's how you fix it. And you're like, oh, I'm a dick. Oh, yeah, I can fix this. Mess with the emotions of the people watching. Whoa, like, that got me. I feel that.